So, good morning, Marilia. Welcome to our Iron Woman Hour. And our topic this morning is leadership, management, and well-being, and how they all interrelate one way and then another way. So, we're really fascinated on your take on this topic. So, we're going to give you a virtual round of applause. Welcome to the forum, Marilia. Would love to hear from you and your expertise and why you're interested in this topic and what can you tell us about it?
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Um, so if I tell you a little bit about myself, I'm self-adopted Welsh. I have been here for about just over 40 years. So straight from Portugal to Wales. So that has been very interesting. In terms of my hats, so I have different hats. I got an educational hat because I teach at University of South Wales and I teach leadership and management. So there is a big link in there at postgraduate level. And what I find is that certainly for me personally is about more self-management and self-leadership to give me kind of direction about what I want to do, what I want to achieve. Um, so my educational role has been over the last 23 years, but I've got 40 years of body work, doing body work and doing personal development and stress management and stuff like that. So it has been an interesting journey, actually, a very interesting journey. So that's how I met Cheryl, actually, wasn't it?
A long time ago.
A long time.
Yeah, so how did we meet? I think it must be at least 30 odd years ago.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So it's interesting times. It's very interesting times, and I think the advent of COVID has been a gift to academics, not necessarily to other people, but for academics has been a real gift in terms of leadership and management and how it has affected all sectors. So that has been something else. And also, of course, at the personal level, uh, managing family, managing time, managing one's own resources in terms of do I give myself to this person or to that person to who has got who is going to have priority. So that's in. I put together a little uh, a slide uh, show for you that you. So if we are able to share, do you
Yeah,
think we are able to share slide
yeah.
or share screen? Yeah.
If you can share screen.
Okay, share screen. So that here it is. Share. Ta-da! So here we are. So in leadership and management, there is much talk about that business leaders, business managers, entrepreneurs have to be fit in order to lead their businesses, in order to be able to run their businesses. So that is very much in my head. So in terms of balance, when it comes to well-being, in terms of self-leadership, where do we want to go? What is our direction? And in terms of self-management is about us writing our own script, because very often we are running other people's scripts and not our own. And is kind of let's bring it home and let's write our own script and follow it.
So if
So
you want to go on to projector view, Marilia,
um,
the little screen, bottom
I
right.
don't know how to do that.
Okay, so if you just take your cursor down to the bottom right of your screen, you'll see a little screen. Keep going down and then right. Right.
Okay,
Yeah. Right.
that one.
Yep.
Thank you. Is it? Ooh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. So, in terms of well-being, the dimensions that I tend to consider are physical to start with. I'm a very tactile kind of person. I love bodies. So, so physically is quite important. Then comes the social, so the networks, the personal networks, the business networks. The emotional. So one of you was speaking about mental well-being and mental health and so on. So emotional, extremely important, more and more. And I think COVID actually brought this right up front to us. Our space, the environment within which we either run our business or live or spend time just to recharge our batteries. And I think now, as situation happens, we are in the economic setup that, you know, everyone or many people are struggling and having serious problems. So those kind of dimensions of well-being can be quite helpful to keep in mind. So one of the things that we find in education is people are burning out. Well, not just in education, but certainly education is very close to me. And education from school, you know, primary school to higher education. So burnout is there, chronic at the moment. So how many of us, well, do you know something? The first time I fell asleep at the computer, when I woke up, I thought, oh my God, I just fell asleep at the computer. It was quite an experience. And it has happened a number of times since, actually, unfortunately. It shouldn't be, but it has been. But so, you know, like, I don't know, was it Amy that was saying that, you know, you forget to eat? Or one of you said you forget to eat because you are busy and so on. So loss of appetite, you know, being forgetful, you know, people being more unwell, physically unwell with headaches and not drinking water and so on. And depression and isolation, again, that was something that and is still there with the remote working. Some people are quite happy to do remote working, but some others feel quite isolated with that kind of prospect. So whilst for some is, oh, thank God, I don't have to go to the office. But for others, it just closes in and really gets very oppressive, really. So do any of you can relate to any of those symptoms? Yes?
Yeah.
I only can see a few of you, so I can't see how many nods are going on.
Yes, I can relate.
You can relate, yeah? And mood swings, you know, the idea of one moment everything is so happy and so going, and next moment, and release, having the need to release all of this. So here are some little tricks that one I made earlier. So part of in my body work, one of the things that I try to give people is things that they can do themselves, so that they are not dependent on finding someone that can treat them and so on. So those points there around the eyes, or particularly around the brow, is for exhaustion. And so you can pinch the brow. It's full of acupuncture points. So if you pinch the brow and notice when you are doing that, is your jaw relaxed or is your jaw closed? Yeah, because that has a lot of importance. And many people don't realize that they actually keep their jaw quite tight. And then when they have headaches, they think, oh, I don't know why I'm having headaches. So really pinching, yeah, pinching the brow, along the brow. And there's a little spot right on the inside, on the corner of the eye. Again, that can release, like this lady there is doing. So those two spots by the eyes, yeah, that releases the tension on the neck as well as the head, from the top of the neck to the bottom of the neck. So that is a very, very effective. We tend to go to the eyes if we are tired, don't we? So he's already using a movement that we organically do. And you can see the dots on the eyes and the green dots on the back of the neck. So the two work for each other. Yeah, so we don't necessarily need to, but you need to, Rachel, you need to relax the jaw. You can't keep your jaw closed. If you do that with your jaw closed, it doesn't work. You can say that forever. And it doesn't work. But when we do it to ourselves with the thumbs on the inside of the eyes, and then just brushing along the eye, oh, it's such a relief. It feels so nice. So, so nice. But those are things that one can do quite easily
So is
without.
that why we rub our eyes when we're stressed?
That's it. That's it. Because it's a point. Those points are calling points. Like you are saying, you know, is the body talk? Is the body calling? Oh, let's rub. Let's do something around there. You know.
Got you.
We just need to put the volume up. Because when the body talks, sometimes we put the volume down. Oh no, it can wait. It can wait. Or I do it later, or whatever. And then we end up with more stress than we account for. But those are super effective points, absolutely super effective. So you don't have to do it for very long, but he's doing it frequently, particularly if you know that you are going to be on the screen for a long time. It can be a good way to actually ease that accumulated pressure. So taking action is the most challenging. We are full of good intentions. Good intentions are there forever. However, it is the business of taking action, being active, and also is sometimes about taking notice of our surroundings and being, you know, if we go to the garden, being aware, okay, there's nice colors, there's nice flowers, there's the sound of the birds and so on. So being where we are at that moment in time, rather than being there in physical, but our minds being elsewhere all over the place. So being mindful of where we are at that moment in time can be extremely helpful, extremely helpful. Also, some people find it very useful to use a journal and to jot things down. But I have a trick for you. When you write things down on a journal, make sure that you make a sentence for each of the senses, right? So I see the roses, or I can hear the birds, I can smell the flowers, so that each sense gets activated. Yeah, because we tend to have a dominant one or two senses that kind of make themselves as the kings and queens of the sensory talk. And I think, Cheryl, you know that pretty well, don't you? With your hypnosis, so you do know that. So, but it's for balance. So it's back to the balance. Rather than allowing one or two senses to be dominant, let's spread it. Let's tap onto the other senses so that we are in a much more balanced state. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Marilia?
Sorry?
Can I ask a question? I suppose I see a lot of women coming to start up a business from a very bad state. It's almost like as though they don't know what else to do other than run a business. And they're coming from a space where they've not done any learning for a long time. They're not fit. They are already have mental health issues. Got finance issues, so they feel under a lot of pressure, and they try and do everything themselves. So they come to almost start up a business from a really bad place, and then it feels almost like they spiral down, and then end up on medication for depression. It's almost like as though I feel to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be fit.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as Cheryl knows, I have been involved in the Veil Women's Business Network. Christine Atkinson, that sadly has already passed away not long ago. Her and myself, we both started that Women Business Network, and it's very much like Cheryl is saying. Taking up a business, becoming an entrepreneur is almost trying to rescue a situation that is already going topsy-turvy on one side. And you know, back in 2000, the Welsh government did some research about women entrepreneurs, not just women entrepreneurs, but one of the groups was women entrepreneurs. And what they found was that, you know, exactly what you are saying, and it has not changed, you know, 23 years on, and it has not changed. You know, women want to do everything, they are prepared not to sleep, not to eat, and just keep on going. And what we are failing to see is that by taking 1 hour, a couple of hours in a week, the productivity does not change, right? However, we can become so much better, and we can become so much clearer in our heads about taking action and making decisions with clarity and looking out for help. One of the things of that network was about mentoring, about facilitating the process of mentoring and finding women that already had been through the journey that could mentor, like Rachel was saying, that can support other people that want to go on that journey and so on. So that was extremely good. And I think we can catch up. And I guess the other thing is women think they are miracle makers. We can be miracle makers, but even miracle makers need to take a rest now and again. Just because we want that title, it doesn't mean that we can't rest and we can't ask for support. And I think that's a cultural kind of setup as well, the business of asking for support. It's very interesting because during that period, we had one woman entrepreneur that she wanted to develop a business super fast. And she had 5 mentors. It was remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So she found a mentor for each of the areas in the business that she knew she needed an injection of something. And with these 5 mentors, she just went for it. It was, you can imagine academics, 5 mentors, what you need for that. So some of them were quite puzzled, but when they realized that it was actually working, but her being able to have that courage to reach out and say, I want 5 because I want to go fast. I don't want to be on the slow lane. So that was quite remarkable, actually. But these days, with much more self-directed learning, I think we also have the facility. Okay, we get stuck into the computers, we get stuck onto the screens, but at the same time, we have much more opportunity for self-directed learning, to tap into things that are going on, to use apps that are for stress, to mitigate stress, and so on. So one of the things that I tend to suggest is in your diary, because sometimes if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't count, it doesn't happen. So if on your calendar you put appointment with TFM, so what do you think TFM stands for?
No idea.
Time for me.
Yes. Absolutely, time for me. But it's an appointment. So if it is in the calendar, it's more likely to be done. People know not to bother you, and that's it. I think the other myth is that sometimes people think, oh, I need to take a full hour out or 45 minutes or whatever. Well, if we just take 5 minutes at a time, 5-10 minutes, it's how many 10 minutes do we lose and waste, But if we make a point of just going around the block, sitting in the car, or just taking ourselves out of the busyness, it can really make a big difference. Massive, massive difference. And do stretches, the things that we were speaking about, the eyes, in particular the eyes. Hydration, drinking, particularly water, is critical, because if the body is dehydrated, it begins to malfunction, really. And being kind to oneself every day, not just when we need it. It's about taking preemptive strikes so that we don't come to the point that we are, because in my body work, what I have discovered is if we don't, bodies are very, very tolerant. They tolerate abuse like nothing else. However, when the quota is reached, they will stop us. If we don't stop ourselves, we will go ill. We will become ill to the point that we have to stop. And this is how, when people go on holidays, particularly women, when they go on holidays, they fall ill. The first few days, they are likely to fall ill because the body says, oh, we stopped, we slowed down. Oh, let's enjoy this. Let's make sure that nothing happens. So that we actually take time for ourselves. So it's a very interesting kind of. Can that make sense to you? Can you relate to those suggestions?
Yeah.
I've even heard as well, just recently, that if we have 6 hours sleep or less ongoing, you're likely to make yourself sick.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Also
realize.
die much earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, like Rachel was saying, she looks after everyone else. Who looks after you, Rachel?
I'm not that bad. I mean,
I'm just using your words.
I know, but only because I think sometimes as a woman, you're programmed to look after others. And then, when someone says, how are you doing? You say, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm fine. Of course, you're not fine. There's loads of stuff going on, but you really don't want to elaborate on it or bore anybody else. We're all going through some stuff, So, yeah, I think it's just our natural reaction. Yeah, we're great, we're good. How much sleep do you get, Paco? How's the family? Fantastic, but they were screaming till 2 a.m. this morning, but everything's great. No, I think we just programmed on we to try to make sure everybody else is okay. And as long as we're still standing, we think we're okay.
Well, but to that I would say, how often do we upgrade our software in the computer? Or how often do we go for the MOT for the car? So we also deserve that time out to refresh, to regenerate, and to kind of recharge, really. So it's quite legitimate. it's not an offense to take time out, really. Now, how does this impact on self-leadership? To my mind and in my experience, is about that direction. Is about women tend to compromise a lot. Yes, if I could, this is what I would do, but I can't because there is this demand, that demand, the other demand, however many demands. So one forgoes that sense of purpose that might have been there. And with that goes our passion. One becomes much more functional rather than being excited about things. It's just another tick, done, job done. So that is interesting. How it affects giving too much to others takes away from us, and we are as entitled. Do we put ourselves on the first page or on the last page? If we were to prioritize, where would we place ourselves? Where do you place yourselves when you prioritize your week, when you are scheduling your week? Where do you fit in that week?
I wonder as well, Marilia, if we overpromise to others and they take advantage of our
Sure.
overpromising,
Totally.
and then it's almost like as though then the cup is empty for ourselves, because
Totally.
we thought they would have come back and say, no, I'll do that bit for you, whereas really they're just sucking the blood all the time, really.
Is what I call the vampires and bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. Because on one hand, we might want to be appreciated. So we do, and there's the silent, okay, they will appreciate that I'm doing this for them. They will take notice and so on. But it's not always like that. So we need to become more economical with our generosity because, we only can give what we have. And when we don't have and they are trying to give to others, it's not going to work because it's not going to last for them either, So that's my kind of take on that. In terms of leadership, one of the things that is being highly flagged up is emotional intelligence, in terms of being self-aware of our connections, how we are managing ourselves, how we react to a situation. Do we get angry? Do we get spiky? Because again, if we are tired, we are less tolerant of people being a nuisance and so on. So things like that come into play. Having an open mindset rather than a closed mindset be prepared to do something different and fail. Failure is not a disaster. Failure very often gives us an opportunity to do something different and fresh and learn, so not be scared of that whatsoever. But I can tell you, certainly in education, there's a lot of self-regulation, because the students, although they are adults, they behave like kids. Totally like kids is something else. So and of course, for the ones of us here that have young children, they are experts at taking us to the limit of our self-regulation. They really push and push, because they're trying to figure out, okay, is this the person that I come to when I want action on this or that, or is it someone else? So they are doing their best. They are learning themselves and developing as well. So it's all good for them. So one of the things that, in terms of leadership styles, that works good is very much the transformational one. And I think, Rachel, you are a good example of the transformational one, because you are facilitating people to develop, you are helping people with their situations and so on. So that is really very much part of transformational leadership. Again, with the advent of COVID, people have been forced to collaborate. Just think about the pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies would never in a million years would have considered collaborating with their competitors. That was just not in the book. And they had to, not because they wanted, but because they were forced. So emerging from the COVID, what has come up is the adaptive leadership. And in adaptive leadership, the idea is, okay, we're going to have to respond to this, but at the same time, we want the business to do well. So we are not just putting a plaster. We are trying to exploit, as an entrepreneur, we are trying to exploit, okay, is there an opportunity here that, as well as I'm having to do something different, can I exploit this so that the business expands, the business innovates and diversifies? So that is really coming on very, very strong, as is authentic leadership. The young people that are looking for jobs, they are very much looking, those three bottom ones, adaptive, authentic, and ethical. And the ethical gaining momentum all the time, because they are looking to work with businesses, male or female businesses, that have consideration for the environment, have consideration for the people, is not just the bottom line kind of stuff. And they want people to be real. This is what kids are very good at. If we are not authentic, kids know it straight away. They absolutely spot it. And they will not buy into it. So, it's something that it's out. But of course, all of those have the other side, have the dark side, transformational. One can become idealized and think one is God or whatever. Steve Jobs was a good example of that, Yes, I'm very good. And he became, if we say Apple, it's his face that comes into our minds, isn't it, If you think about, was it Pepsi Cola, the lady Nuri, she was amazing. And again, she was very transformational, very helpful, taking very much the idea of the employees. How can we make them to be happy? And because if they are happy, then the job goes on well. And what is so interesting is the countries that were run by women, led by women during the COVID, were the ones that did the best. It wasn't the countries led by men, but the countries led by women. So in Germany, New Zealand, and so on, because they took that community, that societal kind of approach, that consideration, not just for themselves and their immediate kind of neighborhood, but a bigger picture, that social picture of how is this affecting everyone. So that was super interesting. So who are your role models for female leaders?
I haven't really got any.
No?
Say
Okay. So
I
what
only like Beyonce because she's got an alter ego. So I like
okay.
sometimes being able to just be a person at home, or then
Okay.
turn up at the office and be Sasha Fierce. Then I quite like that. Or
Okay.
sometimes you feel you can't say certain things if you're playing yourself, whereas if you're playing somebody else, you can say what you want.
Okay, you're right. Any other experiences?
I quite like Michelle Obama,
Okay. Yeah.
and obviously sort of opera as well. I think she's
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, when you identify a role model, is quite useful, because then you can begin to, what is it about how she behaves, or he, because of course we must not ignore the men, because we have to interact with them. So we can't fully ignore and just think, oh, it's a female zone. Or to my mind, I'm very mindful that out there, many men are the ones still making decisions. Women are totally underrepresented when it comes to leadership. Back in 2010, between 2010 and 2015, there was a push for quotas for women to be in the boards of big businesses, because they were not coming through. And if they were coming up to the leadership post, was very much, now I need time out because I have a family, or I have other responsibilities. And then they didn't feel like they wanted to come back. One of our companies, British Telecom, they had a fantastic program of bringing women back into the fold after they had their maternity break. So that was super, super interesting, really interesting.
I wonder as well, Marilia, if we've got this lack of awareness on TV with regards to female entrepreneurs. I'm a Sex and the City fan, and they brought out the new edition of Sex and the City, and it's
Okay,
good to see women doing the podcasting and women doing the business.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I feel British TV, we don't seem to have that, of really great positive role models that are relevant, that are doing this stuff that you've got on this slide. It's
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
like there's such a lack of female British role models
yeah,
on
yeah.
TV as female entrepreneurs.
Well, just if you think about how it has happened with the Oscars, how many women have been nominated, and actually get it. There are those few that consistently get nominated, isn't it? But new people is not, they are not coming through. I think sometimes we are over modest. We kind of, I don't want, what goes with success. Well, the thing is, one doesn't have to be caught by that razzmatazz of whatever that one might not feel comfortable with. But nevertheless, just because one doesn't want to be part of that, we don't have the right to hold ourselves back. One thing doesn't mean the other, does it?
I think Rachel Bedgood could make a really good TV program at CBS. What do you think, Rachel?
What was that? Sorry, make a TV program.
Yeah, I think you'd be a really good role model for a female leader, and sharing all the insights and learning, and just following.
Yeah, we've done a pilot with BBC actually, so it's just sat there waiting for someone to fund it. But yeah, I like leadership. And I understand that we need to take time for ourselves and make ourselves better. But actually, one of the things that makes me feel really good, makes me feel better, gives me a lot of self-worth, is the ability to help others, to nurture them, to give them other opportunities, or just listen. So it's quite selfish, really. I mean, I do it and it's great, and I'm sure it's really appreciative by everybody, but it's not to say that I don't get a lot in return for it.
Mhm. Yeah. Is that balance, isn't it? As long as you feel that by doing that, you are also satisfying something for yourself,
Yeah.
isn't it? Then the balance gets recalibrated, isn't it? But sometimes people just give, and then they are literally hanging. And then they say, oh, why is that? Because, as you say, sometimes one is just programmed to be a giver. And we need also to think, how do others feel when we don't want to receive from them, right? Because there are some people that want to give to us, and we say, oh, no, it's okay, and we are saying, oh yes, go for it. So it's a catch-22 kind of business. It's fascinating. The dynamics, the psychology of it all is something else, really. Ooh, as it got stuck. I think I've gone stuck. It's not moving.
Can we pull it together now, Marilia? Because we've got 15 minutes. It'd be really lovely to know if people have any questions for you.
Yes.
And also, what are they learning from this, and how might they transform themselves and their business? So if you come out of stop share.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Oops, up there. Okay. Yep.
That's wonderful.
There we are. Ooh, it's nice to see you all again.
So let's go to Karen then. So what have you got out of this, Karen? How might you put some of this into practice? Do you have any questions for Marilia?
I think it's one of those things where you kind of need to create your own wellness toolkit and think about what goes in it for you, because we're all individuals. We all have our own different coping mechanisms. I just remember when we did nursing, first week we spent, every one of us, every single lesson, how do you define health? And it was that whole biopsychosocial thing, and it just went into everything. But there was an awful lot of things around abuse as well. Being abused financially, all the other stuff. But we can be our biggest abusers ourselves. And if we don't watch out, we actually need to sort of be careful of that one. So yeah, I think just developing my own wellness toolkit and thinking about what that might include.
And for me, I always think, I'm going to go out on my bike, and then I leave it so late, I can't go out on my bike, because you tend to prioritize other things before going out on the bike. And it's almost like as though I need somebody to say, you're going out on your bike, and now it's time to go out of the door, out you go. Because left to my own devices, and I think social media is one of those dripping time bombs of, well, that's where our time goes. If we've got spare moment, we think, I'll do a blog, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'm supposed to say, get out on your bike.
But I think this is where buddying up is actually really useful, because if you think about the course that we're doing, the fact that we've buddied up has taken us far further than if we'd done it individually.
Yeah.
Right.
So Karen tells me where she's at. I think you're at 60-something% now, and I'm thinking, I haven't checked how far forward I am. I've got to get further ahead than Karen.
We're both competitive in our own little ways. So if Cheryl says she's on module 9, I'm on module 8, it's just like, no, got to get past you. I'm going to get to module 10 now, and it's just like,
oh, I love it.
We've kind of leapfrogged each other all the way through, but it has made
that
we're actually doing it.
Yeah.
Is that peer support, isn't it, Karen?
It's that buddying up that makes it so different, because I don't think I would have got half as far as because I would have procrastinated. And I think the same could be applied in wellness. If you create a wellness buddy where you sort of have that accountability and, create competitive wellness. I've been to the spa week, ha ha ha.
But also as well, I think it's who you surround yourself with, because I've had to withdraw from the gym because I caused so much of an injury. I just went hell for leather in a week, and then I couldn't walk the second week. And so I can remember walking into the gym, looking around thinking, these people are just so fit. And it was such a shock, to be surrounded by so many fit people, thinking, well, of course, it's a gym. But I think we've got to surround ourselves with good examples of people who get this stuff right as well.
It's very true. Very
Yeah,
true.
so over to you, Amy. What have you learned? Do you have any questions? What might you do differently?
My biggest failures are eating and drinking. I survive on coffee and yeah, which does absolutely nothing for me. Doesn't make me wake up. I started actually putting things in place, so making sure like you know, all the wills and all the financial stuff is sorted out. Trying to find a cleaner that's not afraid of my dog. It's proving quite difficult. Yeah, just making sure I meal plan. So I've started to do all that stuff because I recognize that I mean, I've got another cold. That's just ridiculous. I keep getting one thing after the other, so I'm fed up of it. So I'm changing it.
Fantastic.
Good
So-
food also makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, my diet is pretty good. I just need to remember to eat it.
Under the fridge, get it out.
Doesn't come to you, does it? You have to go to it.
Yeah, but the stupid thing is, I'll make dinner for everybody else. So I'll feed the dog, feed the kids, go back to the desk and realize I forgot myself again. But I made the food, so I spent the time doing it.
Oh, thank you, Amy. And over to you, Lisa. Any questions, observations, transformations?
I think for me, like, I think my life must be in constant burnout, but I'm so used to it that that's how I function. Because I'm used to doing everything and being everything to everyone, and just used to carrying on. But when you've done the list of things, like, I didn't think I'd done too bad because I've always got someone to talk to. I go for a walk every morning before I go to work at 8, well, between 8 and 8:30. I just go for a 40-minute walk because I know, like you said, Cheryl, I won't fit it in if I do it later on in the day. So that's me, like, waking up to the world type thing. So I'm no good in the mornings anyway. But I drink like loads and loads of water every day and stuff like that. So I'm not as bad as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Well done. And over to you, Ellen, because you're working with women all the time with regards to their well-being, and obviously working with a lot of entrepreneurs as well. So what transformative piece do you think we've all got to get a grip of?
I think it's creating boundaries, what I've had to learn, because this is my world and I give advice and help others, but I always have to remind myself to give that to myself as well. And what I've done is create the non-negotiables in my life for my self-care, so my meditation, my gym, and it doesn't matter what's going on, that has to become a priority in my schedule, or else if one of them falls away, and they easily can, you see the struggles then catch up with you, and you're not your best, so you don't deliver to others then, at your best. So yeah, it's a top priority for me, really, but sometimes, I slip, not perfect, but it is getting back on and making those, like, setting them in the diary, isn't it? Putting them in the calendar and sticking to them, especially summertime when the kids are out of school and it's all chaos. You need to be firmer then with your boundaries.
Thank you, Ellen. And over to you, Rachel. What ideas have you picked up from today, and how might you do some transformational work?
Well, I am getting better. I'm aware that I'm getting better at taking some time out, and I'm good at lists, and I love a list, and a list is good for so many. Like, on my list today will be all the stuff I've got to do for the office, but it'll also be book Ibiza, call your mother, book your kid in for a bike ride lesson, things like that. And even the work stuff that I do, some things that I put on the list are really mundane and really easy tasks to do. But sometimes I used to find that I'd get to the end of the day and work my nuts off. And I was like, shit, what have I done? I haven't stopped for a moment, and I can't actually think of any genuine contribution I made to work life myself. So then I started writing it down, like an A4 sheet of paper I'll have every day, and there'll be 30 or 40 tasks on it, even if it's just reply to an email or check in with this customer. At the end of the day now, before I leave to go home, I look at the list and go, Christ, you've got a few ticks for there. Well done. I may not have ticked everything, but I've got this way of evaluating what my contribution was that way. So I find that super useful. Yeah, still a lot of room for improvement, but I'm not too hard on myself. I think I'm okay.
It was quite interesting because we did some research as part of a government agency piece looking at entrepreneurs, and we worked with top entrepreneurs over about 4 years, and the only thing they had in common was they did a list.
Oh, was it? Because I was just about to say I've never seen myself as entrepreneurial, but I know people make reference to it. Yeah, but no, lists. Lists are good for my sanity, to keep me focused, to stop me procrastinating. Or when I do feel myself procrastinating or drifting off, I'll go, right, find some easy tasks that were on your list, so I can at least feel I've ticked them off, but they required no brain power.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, Marilia, so how are we doing then as a group of entrepreneurs that have joined you this morning? Do you have any last minute advice for us?
Lots of potential. Lots and lots of potential. I think what is so nice is the sharing, is the kind of reassurance, like the budding up and so on. Is there are little tricks, and as you say, Karen, it's all very personal because we are each individuals, and some things will work better for some rather than others. So the idea of a one fits all kind of business doesn't sit very well with me. Is a generic rather than this is it, this is the the recipe. You know, when we are cooking, we don't necessarily follow the recipe absolutely to precision, do we? Oh, there's a little sprinkle of us going into into the recipe itself. So lots of potential is keep talking, is keep networking, keep sharing, keep raising. If there is something that you are noticing that, oh, something is coming up, has someone noticed this, has someone noticed that, and that sharing becomes then that common thread begins to kind of take life and show up, you know. So yeah, that's good.
Oh, well, thank you, Marilia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming along and giving up your time. Well, I know it's marking season for you in the university.
Any excuse to get away from the marking.
So thank you, Marilia. Really appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.